Light a campfire and everyone's a storyteller. Join us for some thought-provoking and beyond fireside chats.
Hello and welcome to Leave Our World a Better Place. My name is Kasia and today I'll be speaking to Andrea Perez Hoyos, Creative Director at Adriana Hoyos. Andrea will be speaking to us about the inspiration behind the design for the new and beyond Galapagos Explorer. Hello, Andrea, and welcome to our podcast. Thank you so much for taking the time to come and chat with us about our exciting new project in the Galapagos.
Hi, Kasia. No, it's a great pleasure for me to be here with you sharing about this fabulous project.
Andrea, you're going to chat to us a little bit about the design of the and beyond Galapagos Explorer, our new expeditions yacht, as a representative of Adriana Hoyos, who did all of the design for it. Before we start talking about the yacht itself, could you just tell us a little bit about the company, its background, and the position that you hold as creative director?
Yes, absolutely. So the company was founded exactly 30 years ago. We're celebrating our 30th year this coming September. It's a family-owned business founded by both my parents, Adriana Hoyos and Eduardo, my father, who until this day are very active in the company as CEO and principal roles. The company actually started as an interior design studio where Adriana, my mother, she's always been fascinated about in her designs complementing by beautiful pieces of furniture, lighting, and decorative elements. So after a few years, her and my dad decided that they had to manufacture their own furniture. And it's a funny story how it all started because it was actually on an airplane where they were having some gin and tonics, having a creative conversation, which is very common in my family. And they came out with a napkin and Adriana started drawing her first chair from the Coco collection. So back in the day, our first furniture collection was called Coco, made out of coconut shells harvested in Ecuador. So it's all been, from that day on, it's all been a beautiful journey because nowadays we employ more than 300 people between people who work at our furniture factory, our design studio, and our furniture showrooms. Nowadays, we are exporting about 300 containers per year to about 20 different countries. So it's a lovely story about how Adriana Hoyos started, and nowadays it's, I would say, a very recognized international company. I am the creative director now. I am an interior designer. I had my studies in the United States, and after 10 years now, I hold a position of giving the creative direction for most of our Latin American projects and also our furniture collections. We work as a team with Adriana, my mother, to spark the first ideas of each project. And then from then on, I work with my design studio in Quito, Ecuador, to launch all those ideas. And Adriana is at the Coral Gables flagship store in Miami, holding the team over there. So I think it's a great mix between experience and innovation. And we love to be Latin American designers exporting all of our ideas, worldwide and, of course, locally in our country as well.
It's a really, really lovely background story about the company as well. And I know at And Beyond, we really love working with small sort of family-owned companies, but definitely with local designers and people who have a sense of the destination. I'd really love to hear from you. As a company, how did you first become aware of And Beyond? And what attracted you to work on the project of refurbishing the expeditions yacht, the And Beyond Galapagos Explorer?
So about And Beyond, I love reading about traveling blogs. And on one of the blogs, I saw that there was this huge talk about the giraffe manor that I know And Beyond has a relationship with. And I fell in love with the concept of conservation and luxury travel. And that just really, at that moment when I read that, actually, I had I just came back from a trip from South Africa, and I said, how did I not explore, go to Nairobi and all these places? But in any case, I fell in love with this idea, and I said, oh, I really wish one day in Ecuador, we are invited to a project like that. And over the years, we have worked with projects with a similar, I should say, background. But what really touched and how we really connected with and beyond and its first project, the Galapagos Explorer, is that in our core values of the company, we celebrate sense of place. So it was like love at first sight, I should say, with this vision. And the idea, as I mentioned before, nowadays we cannot just look for traveling as a source of, I should say, entertainment, but to connect to the values of either the company, the hospitality company that we're traveling with, or the destination. So I think that was the very first great link between us.
It's so important to find those companies that share a similar vision and a way of approaching things. For example, I listened to a video on one of your social media accounts where I listened to you speak about using nature as an inspiration for design. And that's something that's really so close to our hearts as well. It's such a great concept. And of course, you mentioned the sense of place as well. What's the kind of process? So, I know for us, it's also very, very important that each of our lodges or each of our properties has a really, really true and authentic sense of place. And it's obviously something that you bear in mind in your design. How is the process? How do you draw inspiration for the interiors? Thinking about things like sense of place, using local themes, nature as inspiration. Can you talk us through that process a bit, please?
For this creative process with the Galapagos yacht, we had to keep 3 different pillars in mind. One, nature as an inspiration. How can we translate what our guests will be exploring and seeing outside the yacht into the interiors, but making it, I should say, a little bit more romantic. So if you see around the corridors, for example, you'll see these beautiful illustrations of the animal species of the Galapagos, and you will be reminded if you spotted, I don't know, a blue-footed booby or a Galapagos shark or a Galapagos tortoise as well, of how, this is really a resemblance of that. The second design pillar that we kept in mind is that many of the guests maybe don't have a chance to explore Ecuador as a country, and they just travel, exclusively to the islands. So we wanted to bring a little bit of that warmth and that importance to the yacht. So again, you will see hand-woven elements and hand-woven artwork and tapestries and whatnot. And so with that said, people that haven't been to the Galapagos, they're islands that have been for many years just immigrated by different cultures, and there's not a lot of locally sourced artisans. So we had to work with artisans from, mainland. And so that was a very important pillar. And the third pillar of inspiration or for our design process was that, of course, we're in a yacht. It's marine design. You have to bear in mind very different ergonomics and comfort, points of view. So all the furniture had to be very specific for its use. So once we decided on those 3 pillars, it was a very beautiful process of bringing in images. I have been to the islands, I don't know, maybe 10 times. So I really feel connected with the space, and also the people that work with me, designers and the team, brought all these different ideas. So it was a beautiful composition of elements that had to also fit in this vision of and beyond that I love, of how vintage or worn out elements should be part of the design. And about that, I'll tell you some stories later on of what we had to do with the team to really give it that feel and sense of a boat of exploration, I should say.
You've spoken a little bit about locally sourced elements, and it's something that's very important to us in terms of, in terms of authenticity and in terms of sustainability as well. Can you give some examples of the locally sourced elements that you utilized in the design? Perhaps, whether it's textiles or decorative elements, or what were the things that you were able to bring through in your work on the Explorer?
Yes, absolutely, Cass. So, well, first of all the furniture was locally made here in our factory in Ecuador. So that's something that I'm really proud of, because from the sustainability standpoint, we are producing everything just very, very close to the port where it was installed. But besides that, we specifically designed some unique elements. For example, the dining chairs in the main dining area of the yacht, all the backrests were hand woven by artisans here in Quito, and that we had to really explain and make sure that they were getting the sense of what we were wanting to create. And we used a natural fiber to make sure that it's all within our also sustainability purposes. Another element, some of the beds in the suites, not all of the suites, but some of the suites have these beds that were custom made for the yacht, and that also have some woven raffias to its headrest. Also, the artwork, a lot, as I mentioned before. So, for example, in the dining room area, we wanted to give our inspiration was how when you're diving in the Galapagos or maybe snorkeling, it's really just such a magical world under the sea. And I remember this one time that all these manta rays and all these rays just where I was in deep waters and they were swimming above us. And I said, how can we translate this into the dining area? So we designed these hand woven so that we could do it locally, shapes of the fins of the rays, so that all of those little elements that we thought about, where we had to source them locally, because there's such a fantastic world of artisans here in Ecuador that we wanted to bond between the inspiration, the design, and then the sourcing, of course.
I really love that. The way that you bring your own experiences in the Galapagos into the design, and that's such a beautiful way of thinking about it. It's really, really lovely. Andrea, was there a specific color signature that you chose to use for the interiors? And, how did you decide on it, and how did you come to choose those specific colors?
Oh, yeah. So about color palettes, this was, I should say, it came out very naturally, very, I should say, organic, because it could seem very, how do I say, obvious that the blue is a color that it's dominant in the Galapagos, right? But we thought about how can we bring blue as a base color, and then starting to add different contrasts of pops of orange and yellow and some greens, because quite honestly, I should say, when I was looking at other projects from and beyond, and especially in Africa, it's a lot of earthy tones, and because of how nature, just brings that to you. But in the Galapagos, it's amazing how you go to an island and you see this like volcanic black stone, and then you go to a different island and you see these red mountains, and you just don't understand of all these chemical processes of nature that create, this color palette. So we drew from different colors from the experiences, but bearing in mind that this is a yacht that all the spaces are going to be connected. We decided that blue in different tones and shades. There's a little bit of like a navy, ocean blue, and we have more of like a powder, cold blue in some areas. And one of my favorite spots on the yacht is the main lounge area, where we have this blue, very large sectional sofa that was inspired by the shape of a sea lion. And that has a very strong blue fabric to it. So I think since the moment guests arrive, they're going to be seeing these the blue basically as a connector of the whole symphony of the boat.
Now, from everything that I've heard, the design of this particular yacht is very, very different to what a lot of Beyond's competitors have done and the other ships that that are in the Galapagos. Can you talk a little bit? You know, obviously, you've also worked on. I think your company works on cruise ships in particular as well. Can you talk a little bit about that sense of nature and authenticity, and how you used that to make the design stand out from other work that you've done before, or other examples of ships in the area? And, you know, what was especially fresh or original about the way that you approached your process for this project?
Oh yeah, because I absolutely love this point and this question, because as designers of cruise ships, we've been on several projects where we've been asked, and the vision has been to create this very high-end luxury design experience, which I very much so respect. But in the case of and Beyond's Galapagos Explorer, the challenge was, I think it was larger, because you have a fine line as a designer. I believe you have a fine line between something that can have sense of place or that can feel very folkloric. And by that, I mean, you know, we're in the luxury and high-end market. So we know that guests really love storytelling and they appreciate sustainability and locally sourced, but that could easily translate into just very themed and folkloric spaces. So that was my biggest challenge as a designer and as the creative director of this project, is to make sure that it all fit in within a very easy to digest symphony. And how does this differentiate from other projects that we've done is that we were in all the meetings, you know, with the And Beyond executives, and we were being asked, you know, where does this come from? What story is this going to tell? So I just really love how the properties are a language of the company itself, and how the design of the properties become a very, I should say, like it's a main element to sell, because nowadays, you know, you can go to the most exclusive destination of all, and you can stay in a beautiful hotel, but that it doesn't speak the language of the place. So authenticity and sense of place, it can not only be, for example, in the dishware, or it can not only be, you know, in a brochure that you put in the bedroom for guests to read, or, you know, it has to be this whole 360 five senses experience, because I know that even working with the chef and with all the staff that is going to be taking care of guests in the yacht, is the same language of how can we enhance the experience to another level. And I am, with our team, we're really, really proud of when we finished the whole yacht, that once you went inside, you don't need someone to tell you the story. The elements speak by itself, and that's a really big challenge that for us. I think also regarding when you're designing a yacht, a boat, a cruise ship, you have to coordinate everything so perfectly so that it fits, so that it arrives in time, so that, Galapagos, navigating through the Galapagos is serious. You're gonna be, some days it's gonna be very calm, and some days the sea is gonna be um, very. The word is not aggressive, but it can be very hard to navigate, and so we had to make sure that everything is fitted and fixed, and that's not easy when you're trying to design something so, I should say, artistic.
It's definitely been our first yacht design. And I think I find that particularly fascinating is how do you combine that practicality and the usability and the luxury element. It's something that we balance so often at our lodges, but here you've got the additional element of having the space restrictions and needing to fix things because it is a yacht. So can you give me a couple of examples of how you brought this functional element to the design?
Oh yeah, so there's different. I can give you various examples, but one of them, as I talked before about the main lounge area, this is a place where guests are going to be able to relax during the afternoons after exploring, but it's also going to be a space where the guides of each tour of each day are going to tell you the day plan. So it's very versatile space with storage all around, because we have to keep in so many things between life vests and books and storage for the operation as well. So that is a space that I really love, how versatile it becomes. We also had to make storage underneath the beds so that the luggage from the guests will be kept there, and make sure that the beds still look very, high-end, luxurious, and comfortable for the guests. Another story and funny thing is that we were seeing at the handrail of the staircase that there is in the boat, and we wanted even to transform that. How can we transform it into the and beyond's, vision and philosophy, basically design driven philosophy? And we took one of the artisans to the port, and he hand wove it in place, so that that feeling and that sense when you're going down the stairs and you're reminded that people and crafts have been part of the boat. So these little elements, I think, make a huge difference, and I'm just so happy to be able to share with you, because maybe you don't see it, and maybe it's not even noticeable for other people, but maybe through this storytelling we can make sure some of the guests might even hear this and say, wow, I understand. And once they go up the stairs and down the stairs, and other elements of functionality, of course, with the furniture, I should say, nowadays you see so many inspirational pieces of furniture that you really want to bid, or you want to place in your projects. But we have a huge responsibility with ergonomics within our clients and their guests. So it was one of our biggest challenges to make sure that it's going to be a furniture that, of course, lasts, that has the quality, that it has the ergonomics, and that is also going to be easy to move and to maintain by the staff. The fabrics that we used, as much as we wanted to include, locally woven textiles, unfortunately, in some cases, we couldn't do so, because we have to keep in mind that the yacht is not going to be, it's different than a hotel where you can, dry clean some of the fabrics and whatnot. So I think that was also something that as a team we're very proud of, that you might have a feeling of some of the elements being maybe hand done and hand woven or locally sourced, but actually we had to source from other places that were going to give us both of the needs that we had. On one side, all the aesthetics, but as well as the function.
It's so much to think about and so much to balance. It's really, and the fact that in the middle of all of that, you're able to keep in mind those really, really personalized little details like the handrail you just told me about. It's really extraordinary to go to that level.
Oh yeah, Kaz, and also now that I just remembered looking at the photos right now, the the hardware that we use on the nightstands and on the wardrobes of each room were also hand woven, and some of them had to also be woven on site because there wasn't enough time for us to send them back and forth.
Oh wow! So it was a question of bringing the craftsman there to work.
Yes, absolutely.
Now, unfortunately, I haven't seen the yacht yet myself, but having seen the photographs, there were some elements that really stood out to me. And one of those was that beautiful vintage map wallpaper that you've used in some parts of the yacht. And I think, now having heard the way that you talk about the language of a place and about the way that you weave a story, it makes even more sense to me. But I'd love to hear the story of that wallpaper and what made you choose it.
So for the maps in the bedrooms, because I should say Galapagos is just so many stories about animals and all the species of plants and how the because all the islands are have been a product of volcanic eruptions. But then you also have this very special background to the islands, and it's the historic part of it, how the islands were discovered and how different, very unique characters of our history came into the Galapagos Islands. How Charles Darwin based his theory of evolution in the islands, and so many other cultures like German cultures and Spaniard cultures and even British cultures coming into the islands, they all take a little, make these islands even more magical. So we also wanted to represent that, and we understand that guests and clients from and beyond just really love to understand as well the geographic part of the properties. So within the team, we talked to an artist who could represent what would be a historic map of the Galapagos. And because we couldn't use an original piece, of course, because we wanted to transform it into a wallpaper. And this was also a vision from and beyond, I should say. We worked really closely to your executives, and they were asking us how can we just blow up an image of the map and we could tell stories from there, and so that's how this all came out. And I actually, it's funny because as a designer, maybe sometimes you have a very specific inspiration and you already have your mood boards and your design process almost finished. And when you talk to clients, and especially in this case, I just love how in every meeting we would schedule an hour or 2 hour meetings, and all of a sudden it's like, hey, we're in South Africa, it's time to go to bed, or we're in England, it's time for tea, and we're in the other part of the world, we're like, oh my gosh, we just spent 4 hours in this meeting. But because really all those details are what makes the difference of staying in a regular, luxury property and beyond. And myself, I've never stayed in one of your properties, but it's just been fascinating to work as a team to create what I think and what I've from my understanding is a very special and original, I should say, design in the Galapagos.
Well, I have to admit, for somebody who's never stayed at one of our lodges, you speak as though you know the brand and the feel of it inside and out. So I think we'll have to make a plan to get you there as well.
Yeah, thank you. I would love to. I've always, been searching for myself. I think of my husband and I love to travel. And now that we have young children, it's traveling. As I said before, you have to see the purpose and what am I going to learn in that trip, and not just only, relax in if you're gonna choose a place even to relax, for me as a designer, it has to bring something into my inspiration or to my
Yes.
work, because I just really love how I can bring inspiration into my projects.
Now, just sort of on that sense of purpose, I wanted to go back to something that you mentioned a bit earlier, which was your own furniture making and wood milling workshop in Quito. Sustainability, responsibility is something that's key to us, and I think it's very much, from everything you said, it's very much at the heart of Adriana Hoyos as well. Can you tell us a bit about the responsible practices that you employ in your workshop and creating the pieces that you do?
Yes. So for us, since the company started, sustainability has had a very important and impact. Since we work with so much wood, we have a responsibility to give back to nature. And just a few years ago, we decided to buy our own forests of seiki. That's the wood that we use. Is a wood that is only local in Ecuador, Peru, and Brazil, because it has a very it's a very hard wood that is only that can only grow in places where there's a lot of humidity. And but in any case, we bought more than 100 hectares of seiki wood forests. So our process is completely vertical, because we're responsible from the wood sourcing, then the preparation of the wood coming into our factory, and from then also we've tried to develop with local companies most of our prime materials. So, for example, the foam that we use is also locally sourced, and when all the lacquers and all the finishes that we use, we make sure also that don't have a big component of gassing into the environment. But for us, sustainability also means lasting. And I have this beautiful story to tell, because since the company started 30 years ago, I've seen pieces of furniture from Adriana Hoyos' collection passed on through generations. And as designers, it's not only the quality that counts for a piece to be timeless, it's also the design. So when we're designing, we're thinking about how is this gonna piece gonna age, or how is this gonna maintain its timelessness, I should say, so that it still combines or fits into more modern designs. So when we design our furniture collections, we think about how can this new chair be easily combined with, a table that was made, I don't know, 8 collections ago, so maybe 12, 15 years ago. And that is also a way that we can always, try to, as Beyonce says, make the world a better place. Of course, with our people, we couldn't the company couldn't be what it is nowadays, and the designs couldn't be what they are and where they've reached, but it's people. We promote our Ecuadorian artisans into experts on what they do. And nowadays, with so many opportunities in the digital world, we see the younger generations, sometimes they're not attracted to be doing hand work, hand done, work. And for us, that's also a huge responsibility on how to pass this on into new generations, so that there's opportunities of work and of progress there. We in our facilities, we have different parts where people can relax. We have this. We're also conscious about the women that work with us, and myself as a mother, and Adriana, of course. We have different spots for women, for example, for even breastfeeding, because we're in a culture that it's so beautiful that we have mothers bring their own babies sometimes to be breastfed. So I think overall for us, our sustainability pillars lay on how we take care of our people, we take care of our products, and we take care of our clients that receive our products. And as a design studio nowadays working globally, for us to, if we're working in a project in the Dominican Republic, or we're working on a project in the Bahamas, in Peru, we try to, as much as we can, work with locally sourced products and elements. So that is also something really important for us.
That's really great. I can definitely see why you were chosen, and such similar, philosophies to and beyond. Andrea, before we finish, I'm going to ask you a question. It might not be a very fair question because I know it's really, really difficult to answer. Is there one particular element of the design for the yacht that is your favorite, or that you are the most proud of?
Yeah, that is hard. It's like, it's almost like when they ask me as a mother if you have a favorite child, it's like, of course not. They're all my favorites. But
For me, it's when somebody asks me which is my favorite and beyond lodge. I don't know how to answer, so I understand.
There you go. Yeah, I should say, so I am a person that is driven by challenge. I've been an athlete myself for almost my entire life. So I've always thought about what's the next tournament or what's the next challenge. And in this case, it's actually the main lounge that I've talked about so much. That whole main lounge and dining area gave us some beautiful headaches on how it's going to be functional, but how is it going to tell a story, and how is it going to look timeless, but at the same time it's going to be a place where people want to spend time. Because something that I learned when I traveled on this type of yacht or little cruise ships is that at the end of the 7 or 10 days that you're in there, you actually come out with friends as well that you met there. And so we, as much as the rooms are very comfortable in the Galapagos Explorer, as well as the outdoor spaces, the alfresco dining that we have, bar area as well, for me, it's the connections that you make in your trips as well. So in this area, it was how can we make a social space functional for educational moment as well, and how it can be a place for people to just relax and have a cup of tea, and the design be a huge impact aesthetically as well. So I should say that would be my favorite, because of the challenge that it was for the team.
It sounds really, really beautiful. I definitely hope I have a chance to see it sometime soon. Andrea, thank you so much. It's been really, really lovely talking to you and getting a glimpse into what you do at Adriana Hoyos, and also into the thoughts and the processes that went into the design that you did for us. So thank you for sharing that with us.
Oh yeah, Kaz, it's been great. I love talking to you. Thank you for your invitation again. I'm very excited. It's the first time that I've been invited to speak about a project from our clients, and I just hope that maybe some of your guests will hear this podcast before coming into the yacht, and they fall in love with the different design elements that were incorporated. So thank you again for having me, and I hope that one day we can meet in person, maybe in the Galapagos Explorer or in another project from and beyond.
If not, maybe in Kenya. Maybe it'll be Giraffe Manor after all.
Oh yeah, that would be fabulous.
Okay. Thank you again, Andrea.
Absolutely. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Leave Our World a Better Place. Don't forget to subscribe to make sure that you never miss an episode. If you'd like to find out more about And Beyond, please log on to our website at andbeyond.com.